Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on USBN Sports Podcast with Dingo the Coach. I am Dingo, and that is the coach. And as always, joining me is my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited to have our next guest. I've been emailing and texting with him quite often here in Scott Strosnider, and he's was a multiple sport athlete at McNick, playing baseball, basketball, football. I was also
Yeah.
the 1988 state runner-up team, and I can't wait to get to talk to Scott about his experience at McNick, but also not only that, but his life after McNick. So it's going to be great to catch up with Scott.
Well, I mean, obviously, the long list of great athletes that has gone through McNick, and we've interviewed some great ones, and this is just another one that's top notch. And when you start talking about some of the stats, it's going to be pretty cool to talk about.
Yeah, I can't wait to get with Scott. So as we said, is joining us is Scott Strosnider. And Scott, I know we've been planning this for a while, and you're in the deep heart of Texas there. So we're getting you here and doing our little Zoom. But man, we really appreciate you setting the time to join us here today.
Guys, it's kind of all hat, no cattle down here in Texas for the Strosnider family. So I had to just show that off a little bit because anybody that knows me from back in the day knows that I'm rooted.
Yes, sir.
The good old
There it
Green
is.
of McNicholas High School. So
There it is.
I got to tell you, honor and a privilege to be on this. This is a big deal for me. Not a Hall of Famer at McNick, but I'll tell you, my time there influenced me 10x. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just been it was an honor to go to McNicholas High School, especially with all the great athletes. And I tell everybody this as I travel down the road. If you played a sport in Cincinnati, Ohio, from 85 to 95, you have created such an international network of friends, athletes, businessmen. I mean, the list goes on career-oriented. We all know that sports ends, careers start, but you have that past history with all those guys that I got to tell you, it has been nothing but a joy in my life to be a Cincinnati kid. Now, roots are kind of established with my kids in Weatherford, Texas, Fort Worth. It's where I'm supposed to be. It's really great.
Yeah.
I have to shout out Jimmy Surger,
Yeah.
my brother. Just been influential the last probably 5 years of my life. Him and I kind of have traveled the same road with some post-traumatic stress syndrome in our life of certain things. Matt Bailey, Anderson, buddy of mine, has pushed me to meet you guys. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be here with you guys today.
No, that's awesome. And we appreciate Jimmy and Matt doing that too, because that's all what it's about, the connections, because we don't know maybe as many as we have. And you and I have hit it off really well. We've been doing a bunch of text messages, like we've known each other for a long time. So let's go back to your days here. Let's talk about growing up, when you were a kid. I don't believe that you lived in Anderson. I believe you lived in Amelia. So talk a little bit about growing up and where you grew up at.
I'm the player to be named later from Amelia, Ohio. And it kind of all starts because we all played sports against each other forever and a day. Being that kid on 1275 West Ohio Pike, it was awesome. I was the country kid that grew up on 10 acres with a pony. Both sisters married horse trainers. My brother Steve was involved in horses. It was a whole process of me kind of getting off the farm and into the city with all these kids. So brother was a school teacher, Steve Strosnider, Amelia High School, middle school. That was back in the day when Amelia was something.
Right.
Amelia has been exonerated now. Is that the term? That it's no longer. And I grew up in that little piece of Americana that Strosnider excavating was a big deal. Now it's auctions. It's hard for me to go back. Yeah. If you venture out, it was 15 to 20 minutes back in the day from my little place. Picked up Alex Demetrio, picked up Billy Batchelor, and we made it to McNick within 30 minutes. And we were late every day. But at the end of the day, it was life was a lot simpler going from A to B back in the day. It's a little bit congested, it's a little bit changed up now, but having that ability to be pushed or get an opportunity to leave where I was to go in with the brighter kids, smarter kids, more connected kids, it created a network to this day. I'm 53, and man, I am blessed to be part of that community. You guys have done an exceptional job with kind of taking all of us that were competitors and enemies at one time, and now we're all doing a laugh and love in.
That's right.
We're great. we're great parents. We become great friends, and we want to do better by the community.
Yeah.
Turpin, Anderson, McNick, you had Glen Estee. I mean, back in the day, there were some strong rivalries.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there was some, bragging rights. We did things that we shouldn't have done, but that's all part of the growth of the athlete. You don't have this nowadays.
Right.
Social media has ruined these kids, and that's the hardest part. And I've got an 18-year-old boy now, two boys that are going to be freshmen, and there's a constant battle that we have with that social media presence.
Yeah.
The cops got you. The cops got you back in the day. Now the government trying to get you.
Yeah. Yep. It's
speaking the
But
truth. So
not to get off track there, but the concept of leveling up. And I'm not saying that my Amelia roots weren't strong. It was just when you're presented with an opportunity, go take the opportunity.
Yeah.
You've got to go do it. Do the hard thing, as I tell my kids. You do the hard thing now for an easier life later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all cliche nowadays with all the social media and motivation. We're Gen X guys. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing this stuff way before these phones were connected. And we were doing it in riding the bicycle to each other, whatnot.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up out there in Amelia, and you mentioned some of the buddies, and you talk about sports and how that got you going, and meeting some of your buddies. What sports were you playing when you were growing up?
We all played on the Amelia Hornets. We played the baseball. We played the Merwin basketball. I grew up with the Robbie Bachelors, the Jeff Clicks. Those guys were phenomenal athletes.
Oh, yeah.
The rivalry of Jeff Click, John Futrell from Turpin, Craig Wilhoit at McNick, Alex Davis at Forest Park.
Oh, yeah.
That was that 80 strong run where we all were battling for entitlement and a GCL or whatever that league that we played in back in the day was like.
Yeah.
The funny thing is we're all still connected to this day. I talk to Craig Wilhoit once a month.
Yeah.
Jeff Click, Robbie Batchelor at my dad's funeral. Those guys were all, great friends of mine. And it never, our lives together have continued because of the basis of that sports.
So was basketball your favorite back then?
You know what? Probably baseball was the better sport for me, but you played all three because you want to be with your buddies.
That's right.
And the baseball process just kind of continued, middle school, high school. The great part of the high school tradition was you had Ray Ayers as your coach. Little did I know when I played Willowville football in the 5th and 6th grade with Ray Ayers, was I going to catch him again in high school.
Oh, wow.
Man, did we have a good time.
Yeah.
That guy was legendary from the simple fact that he was up at 3 or 4 in the morning delivering. You want to talk about work ethic? Garbage man in the morning, coach in the afternoon, rinse and repeat. This guy was a savage.
Yeah.
And I'm still connected to his kids, Mikey. Nick and I are not as close as Mike, but Mike's son and my son, Cole, have a little bit of a connection because of Major League Baseball.
Right.
Cole's with the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been fun. But I'll tell you, Ray Ayers I think he instilled that grit, that toughness into all of us.
I believe it.
You can't coach today like Ray coached, buddy.
Right. Oh, no.
And let me tell you, Nick, I've watched most of your podcasts from you guys. And Nick, when I close my eyes, I hear Ray Ayers.
Yeah.
Echoing.
Hey, Scott, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something that Nick will love hearing that, because Nick, both Nick and Mike loved their dad, obviously, but I know Nick will love to hear this on this podcast, because his love for his father was twofold, man. He really, really loved him.
Hey, brother, I wept the day that I heard his passing. I have been connected to his family through Mike for years and years. Yeah. And when Ray's health kind of started to play into that, I was calling and checking. It's very hard for me to be in Texas when things go bad.
Right.
Because these guys were influential in my life, and for me to go back and not be a part of their passing or issues that they have with family is really struck the heart chords for me. Mike had called me and said Dad, Ray had passed. Nick and I had talked about some football stuff that he had going on. Gail, his wife, I had talked to.
Yeah.
The connection there, and this is very strange, but my best friend in high school is Jerry Robinson's wife.
Really?
Alex Demetrio. Now follow this lead. Alex Demetrio's mother, Brenda Demetrio, was very good friends with Ray, and I don't know the connection if it's a family or if it's a cousin, but Brenda and John Demetrio were very close to Ray and Gail Ayers.
Wow.
So I'm the Kevin Bacon of the Cincinnati 85 through 89.
Nice.
And that's why Serger brought me on here. He's like, you've got so much to say and know so many, buddy. You might not be in the Hall of Fame, but you're in the Hall of Fame of connecting everybody. And I'll tell you, it's really my gift.
Yeah.
It's really my gift to keep all these guys. We're having our 35th high school reunion. Anita Scales, which is Anita Capel now, is putting this together. And she was probably one of the finest athletes that ever walked out of McNicholas High School. She could have been an Olympic runner.
Really?
And you'll find the process of putting her on this podcast because she is the real deal, Holyfield.
We would love it.
Well, did you go to junior high in Amelia, or did you go to Guardian Angels or IHM?
No, I am the non-Catholic. I am not one of the chosen bread takers, as Stacy Smith and Billy Batcher said. You don't get to drink the wine today. They were. I am Methodist by trade, and I went to Amelia Middle School, and then I transferred to McNick after I passed that illustrious test, which I know I probably didn't pass, but I got in.
So
what was the money?
What was your reasoning for wanting to go to McNick instead of staying local?
Realistically, opportunity, education, and the sports. Okay. It just leveled me up for later along in life. I was probably going to be a veterinarian since the age of 5, or I was going to do something in medicine since an early age. And I knew that would probably push the envelope. That's that level up theory that everyone talks about now that we were doing years and years ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, so when you got to McNick, obviously you played baseball. Did you play any other sports?
Football. Good little football player till Craig Moore cracked my uterus on a 42 power blast as a safety. I popped up and got, yeah. Markley goes, "You're fine. Go back in there." I was like, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not fine. We need to get this looked at. Broken arm. Played the basketball scene with Durger, and then that was over. I was bit. That was the original David Goggins. That's the Tony Robbins of our era. That guy was just amazing. And I was on the team with Craig Wilhoit.
Yeah.
I was on the team with Ross Pollock, Andy Mayer, T.R. O'Brien, all those guys.
Yeah.
88 through 89, strong, amazing. You know, the Michael Mayer, Andy Mayer's son now.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders. Amazing. Those guys are all still in my network and connection, and it's been so great to be involved with them. We had the 88 baseball team that should have won the state championship, but T.R. O'Brien's arm was sore, so we had to go to the state championship with whatever we had left.
Yeah.
And Serger will tell you that we had a really good group of guys that were all focused on winning, when on the outside of the game, they were sarcastic, bullies, hard, headstrong, great guys. But you put us on the field and we were family. But off the field, someone was getting made fun of. So I miss my Cincinnati sarcasm every day. The Texas culture down here doesn't make fun of each other too much.
Yeah. Right. Talk a bit real quick about, you played for, was his name Corbett was the coach that was your varsity coach, and in Ayers. Who was your baseball coach, the head baseball coach? Was it Ayers?
It was Ayers.
Okay.
It was Ayers sophomore, junior, senior year. That was the whole we were in the air, and Scotty Wilhoit will tell you, because he's the historian of all things McNicholas. We were Durger and Ayers, Markley. Didn't know. I don't know. McLaughlin maybe. McLaughlin had helped us with some freshmen.
Yeah.
basketball. And then, the famous Jeff Smith that died of cancer was my freshman coach.
Yeah.
I think that you played against him, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We
remember
did.
him.
Yep.
That was a guy that used to take me my freshman year over to the batting cages in Northern Kentucky.
Really.
He was a big mentor with me. So when he passed away from cancer and we were there for all that process, it was a real struggle to see that guy go early.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's tough. But you've kind of talked about some of the guys you played with on that 88 team, but let's get into it. Was there any particular game that you guys played in that 88 run that kind of sticks out to you? I think Steve and I might have had one of the guests on that I thought played on that team, but I can't remember.
So
Said
Jerry
something about,
Robinson was a
yes, it
big
Jerry.
deal on
Yep.
that team.
Talk a little bit about that. Any particular game
So
that stood out?
we go to Brookville. We go up to Brookville and we play them at Wright State. And the only reason I remember this deal is because they were like 25 or 27-2, and here comes little McNicholas. We're like 13-14 or 14-13 in baseball. We didn't, you barely played many games
Right.
in the spring. I triple in the gap to score the first run, and I can remember I was just emotionally distraught standing on third thinking, we're going to beat Brookville, who's first in the state, and we did. And we had, TR threw an amazing game, Mayor behind the plate. You had the Menino kid that has the home run record at Ohio State playing first.
Really?
We had 8 or 9 kids on that high school team that played D1 sports, and most of them were baseball. Mike Gillen, Matt Ecker, Serger. We had the whole concoction of guys that were just not only were good athletes, but went on and be good businessmen.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's great to hear that story.
And here's where I get to tell you that I get picked off of first base in the state game, and we get beat like 4-3. I am going to steal second. I am going to get there. And I'm thinking I am getting there. State game, walk, get picked off. I think that ended the inning in the 6th. I'm sure Jerry Robinson remembers it because, all those guys always remember your wrongdoings and not your good doings. But it was, nevertheless, it makes for good memories.
Absolutely.
So not only was there great athletes, as I was saying in the beginning, and you just confirmed that came through there, but during your time there, you had some legendary coaches, and one of them being Coach Durger. And Danny and I always talk about how intimidating he was from our view over in Anderson. But talk a little bit about Coach Durger and what he was like, and because we've got perspective from a lot of people. I want to see what your thoughts are on Coach Durger.
Top 5 influential person in my life, no doubt. Okay. I'll have to tell you personally, he helped create Scott Strosnider's persona. And what I mean by that is that the mental toughness, the grit, the compassion, the passion, the understanding of being a good person. I'm really good friends with Chris Wilson, 95 grad, good basketball player. Will Hoyt talked about him, had called me and said, hey, things have went bad for Coach, issue with his foot, ended up having a surgery, take part of his foot off. And I said, my wife is from Lexington, or has family in Lexington, Kentucky, so we're going home at Christmas. With that being said, I told her, I said, if we make it, I'm going up to see him. So at Christmas, I spent about 5 or 6 hours with Chris Wilson and Coach during that time, just because he was so influential.
Right.
He's 87 years old and still a disciple that has a lesson to teach you at all times.
Yeah,
sure.
Went to his basketball camps as a kid, and that's where it kind of started. Like, hey, I have potential to go to McNick and play and do well with these guys. And realistically, I was like, I need to be around this guy. He was a father figure for me. And to this day, at my father's funeral in April of 1987, that man was standing in the back, and I can vividly remembering his face with the big Durger drawl of his hands right here. And he gave me a nod, and that nod was to signify for the rest of my life that you're going to be okay, kid.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay, because we're all going to cover you in love. You're going to be part of this community, and we'll get after it. And you know what?
Wow.
There's no crying. There's no crying with Durger. There's purely great personification of the human spirit. And let me tell you, legendary man. And you guys hear it all the time, and you're Anderson grads, but I'll tell you, he was just a great human being.
Yeah.
Christmas, basketball or Christmas Eve basketball practice in the morning, afternoon dinner with him, always had a story to tell you, always had something to give to you. We miss that in America these days. We miss that in the community of what goes on. I'm down here in the Texas culture where football is king. They don't make them like that man anymore, because now it's all about money, power, political stuff going on with these kids, NIL money. This guy did it for the love of the game, and you know what? It will forever be engraved. And guys like myself, Scott Wilhoit, Brian Heiler, Craig Wilhoit, the Kurt Kieslings, these guys will continue to promote this love of the game and these kind of peoples.
Right.
We try to carry, and I'm mumbling here, but let me ramble. These guys create better generations of kids. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, I've been trying to ingrain this in my children, that you got to give to get. And he was big on giving to get. So I will shout it from the rooftops about what a great man he was.
Yeah, and you did talk about something we talked about before, when we were trying to set up this podcast about what I guess this is what you mentioned to me about going and seeing him. Was it with just you two guys, or I thought you said it was a bunch of guys that went and saw Coach
So
Durker.
John Mulvey and I had called Mulvey, and he said, "Hey, you haven't been to high school in forever. Go back to school and see all the new things that have happened." I've been out of town for about 10 years, so everything had changed. Mulvey said, we're close enough now for us to run down and see Coach. So Mulvey and I were there, and then out of nowhere, Chris Wilson shows up. So we have a party for 4 in that little 8x10 home that he's staying out down the road. And we just reminisced and spent some time with him. Chris Wilson has been extremely influential for that man in the course of the last 2 to 3 months, just checking on him, making sure he's getting proper care and doing some things. And you'll get to know Chris Wilson at a later date.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with Dirk. I know that, like Steve said, he was a intimidating man to us as playing against him. Obviously that rivalry we had, we wanted to beat him, but we didn't really know deep down about how. But everybody that we've talked to at McNick just raves about Coach Durger and what kind of influence.
Scott Wilhoit is probably a son to him, and Scott knows all the things about him and knows the history and knows everything from A to B, and he's been quite a great guy for Coach through the years, just keeping everything in contact. As you get older, man, the memories slip and the fade and the health goes. So you need guys like him that are around, and Scott Wilhoit's been just a fantastic individual.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Danny.
To you, buddy.
No, go.
You want me to steal your question?
Yeah.
Let's get into after high school then. Let's talk about the recruiting process and how that all went, and what sport did you settle on, and where did you end up going?
So I was a pretty good little baseball player. Played for Midland in high school, and the baseball bug, I got kind of bit that I was good enough to play for Midland on the team with David Bell and Adam Heisdu and Andy Banks. That 87 year, David Bell's father, Buddy, as we all know, has been he's been quite influential on me, because I have a Down syndrome son. My son Seth has Down syndrome, and Buddy has a Down syndrome daughter, Annie. So I still talk to David. You try not to bug a big guy like that, because he's got so much going on, but I'll shoot a text and send him a picture of Seth, or just to keep the love alive. And it's been really nice to have that connection with baseball. But the Midland organization really prompted me to kind of pass my ability to go on, and I played at Moorhead. I got a little chance to play at Moorhead, and it was good. And I show up the first day, and I didn't get to catch that much in high school because Andy Mayer was just, the iron horse. But I played some outfield. Summer ball I caught. Went on to Moorhead, and there were 6 catchers my freshman year. I told them as I raised my hand, did you know that I could play outfield too? So I was able to hit a little bit. So I got some chance. I didn't play that much in college. I'll be the first one to tell you, but I was still team captain, rah guy. Had a great experience at Moorhead, pre-veterinary studies. Got into vet school. Actually, I got in chiropractic school before I got into vet school, and that was a cool process. But let me tell you about the OVC, and let me tell you about playing with Brett Roberts, who was Mr. Basketball in like 90, 91, who was averaging 25, 30 points again, and who was pitching in the mid-90s back in 89, 90.
Wow.
Part of that cool steroid era of, he goes off. He goes off to minor league baseball, and we see him the next year. He's like, there's dudes 5'8" throwing 95 miles an hour. He said they've come back with 10 or 15 pounds of muscle put on. He's like, I don't know what they're doing. Can you give me some of them horse drugs that them horse people? So he never said that, but I was like, I know some people that can help you.
That's
Turfway
fun.
Park, huh?
Yeah.
But we win the OVC, and I'm team captain. So I got that big, stunning OVC, beautiful rock, and we're 33-16, and we don't make an NCAA bid. And I'm still mad about it to this day.
Wow. That's crazy.
This was 93. They have a great program down there. A guy that I played with, Jay Sorg, was the coach for a while. It was just been it was a really good career, and it was the network of those guys that have created such a great life for me. And I'll tell you, I would not give up my McNick or Moorhead days. And I was fortunate enough to go try out and play in the inaugural season of the Frontier League. This is 93.
Oh, wow.
Wayne, West Virginia, for the West Virginia Coal Sox. And I get to tease my kids to tell them that I played pro ball. I made $125 a week, had a meal card to Hardee's, and a Domino's pizza gift card at night.
That is beautiful.
Here's what's beautiful. You ready? And this is the best part of this podcast. I went from about 195, 6'2", had some potential, could play, good team member, to 172. I look like Dallas Buyers Club, like Matthew McConaughey. My wife now, Candy's from Ashland, Kentucky, and she lived about 35. She lived about 35 minutes away, so she would come and bring. Who's my best friend now that I talk to once a week, Matt Dahlgren. Yeah. He lives out in California. He was the other catcher, and his claim to fame is his grandfather. Are you ready? Took the place of Lou Gehrig on the 39 Yankees. Babe Dahlgren.
Really?
I tell this story once a week.
That's crazy.
And Matt, I'm going to prompt him a little bit. Matt Dahlgren wrote a book, Rumor in Town, about his grandfather. Wrote a book called The Flannel Past. You guys got to look it up, because he wrote 3 pages about me in this fictional book about being a power hitter that retired to a thoroughbred farm. and I'm telling you, my kids are like, we don't believe it. So I had to buy a couple of books, and I pass it out whenever I get it to show off.
That's awesome.
I have created such a great network around me that I can't tell you how it all stemmed from the move from Amelia, Ohio to McNicholas High School.
Yeah.
And that's where it went. It just, the process of getting to know, playing a sport, not necessarily being the best guy on the team with the best stats, but trying to be the best person. And most of that stuff was really instilled in me when I went to McNicholas High School.
That's incredible. And then obviously you said about going to vet school when your career was over. I mean, you said earlier that at the age of 5 you kind of knew that you were going to get into vet school, but then you also had that internship at Roof and Riddle in Lexington and the world famous Horse Hospital. So
the Roof and Riddle Hospital is just
hospital. Sorry,
that's okay. It is the best of the best. It's my practice in Texas now, Signature Equine, great leadership, great hospital. One of my best pals runs the thing, Charlie Buchanan. It's very comparable, but when you start to deal in Lexington with thoroughbreds and the money that comes from overseas, China, Ireland, Dubai, that hospital is world renowned. And I was fortunate to be that guy that got to work there and do my internship there. So my process through life is I've got to level up and play with all the best guys.
Yeah. That's just that's an incredible story. And I'm glad you were able to share that with us.
You had mentioned your wife, Candy, but I want you to tell us about your family and your kids and where you're living now. What part, you said Texas. So what part of Texas are you living in?
So I'm 60 some miles from the DFW airport. I'm in a town called Weatherford, Texas.
Okay.
And to explain to you what Weatherford, Texas is the Lexington, Kentucky of Texas. We have primarily all the major quarter horses. We have all the major rodeo horses, cutting horses, barrel horses. We have that culture of Western performance. Right. Lexington, Kentucky is all thoroughbred, standard bred. So my practice when I was in Ohio was primarily thoroughbred, standardbred, hunter jumper, backyard trail horses. Here we kind of specialize in primarily all the high-end rodeos, like National Finals Rodeo. My partners are really, really established in that Western culture that sponsor or take care of a lot of those high-end athletes. What's cool about my job is that being a former athlete and being around a bunch of guys that are phenomenal, I now get to work on some of the best athletes that are horse related. And it's cool because it separates the church and the state. I come home and see my kids play ball. I go to work and work on other people's athletes. So it's a cool process. My wife, being from Ashland, Kentucky, is probably the premier athlete in my family. She was 3-time national NCAA cheerleading champion at Morehead. She was part of the Doan dynasty.
Wow.
That, Morehead's won 35, 40 national championships in cheerleading. My wife didn't really coach, but judged for about 20 years while she was a corporate woman back and forth from Disney World doing all those big championships. So my kid's athletic ability, as all my buddies said, don't come from you. I'm like, hold up, buddy. This is some superior genetics, and you better recognize it. But she's the lady that lights the torch. Phenomenal.
Yep.
I really upgraded the process when I got to be involved with her and Mary, and we have 3 great kids, and it's been a good process.
So you said you have 3 kids?
Seth, Sutton, and Sawyer. Seth is my little buddy that has Down syndrome. Okay. Sutton is my 14-year-old that plays all the sports, football, basketball, baseball. Sawyer is in his senior year, football up to freshman year, basketball through his junior year. And now with all the good things that he's got going on, he has just kind of tightened up the ship to play baseball. And our best athlete, well, I said my mother, is probably my Down syndrome son, who plays bowling, baseball, cricket. The list, I can't remember. He's That's part awesome. Of a special needs group here in Texas. The culture for him is phenomenal. And I'll tell you, he paves our way. All my kids are motivated by him, and it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So is Sawyer, the senior, is he looking to go on for baseball?
Sawyer has won the golden ticket in life. The road has been paved for him. He is a commit to TCU. Wow. He is exciting because it's right down the road, and I'm going to get to work on horses during the day and then go watch baseball at night.
Oh, awesome!
And then he's currently under wraps to probably get a little love on the draft board.
Wow!
They're probably going to draft 300 kids. He's probably ranked in the top 150.
Really?
Yeah, 6'2", 190, 6'5", 60.
Awesome.
He can go, and you know what? I'm his dad, so I get to brag on him. I
Absolutely.
want to come back in a time machine and I want to be this kid's friend because his discipline, his ability to be a friend, a brother, a son, is like a book, is like out of that book Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
He really is a good kid. And I'll tell you, it's because my wife stays on that case, brother.
Yeah.
She rides that pony. She stays on him, does really well with him. The kid's got superior genetics.
Hey,
I'm so proud of him.
you should be. And let me ask you one real quick question before we get away here. That so how does that like with TCU and how NIL works and all that? Do schools when they're recruiting you not only offer you that scholarship, but are they throwing NIL money out at you too?
I'll tell you, brother, your kid becomes a business
Yeah.
very fast.
Yeah.
And you gotta walk that fine line because you don't know what you can get away with or you don't want to do. My wife's like, you're going to market him like it's another horse at a rodeo. But realistically, I've let it play out because we've been fortunate enough to have a really good agent that has stepped in early on and told us the do's and the don'ts.
Yeah, that's good.
And this is a cool story. So I want to take a second to throw this out there. Brian Heiler, who graduated with my nephew, Terrence Bryant, 95. Brian is the Jerry Maguire to this whole thing. He was a sports agent with Joe Brennan, who's our agent now. And Brian's like, hey, there's nothing more than I want to do than be part of Sawyer's process. But he goes, I'm in the Midwest. You need to talk to Joe. So we got hooked in to Joe Brennan through Brian Heiler, and Joe kind of helped the process of the recruiting. The phone calls for him to go to colleges was
Outrageous.
crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something. When a 18, 17-year-old kid's getting 100 texts a day, it's a little hard mentally on these kids.
Absolutely.
They're not like us collecting pop bottles and eating Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies back in the day.
Yeah.
These kids aren't meant to be like that. So he's like, hey, I don't know what I want to do. I said, pick 5 schools.
Yep.
5 schools, and we'll go at it. So the interesting process there is that the NIL comes as you get there, and you got Texas A&M, TCU,
Yeah.
Texas Tech.
Yeah.
You've got all these big Texas schools. Oil runs the world, man. Oil's all over the place here. So those people always kind of
Yep.
dipping money left and right through this. So we haven't really crossed the NIL,
But you will.
but I will, and I'll give you some feedback when we do. But the recruitment process is totally different than you and I went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's totally different.
So,
Crazy.
as we said, it's going to be nice too. And like you and I talked off air that if he does end up committing to TCU and he comes to UC, that Steve and I will probably show up to those games and either in
Yep.
the front row, we might even have the sign sitting up there saying, we love UC, but we have a connection, so we'll do that. But so let's go ahead. We're gonna go wrap this up. And one thing I don't know if I told you about this, but we always try to do favorite memories that you have in high school and college, and maybe a favorite. You kind of told us our favorite teachers and coaches, but let's talk about a favorite memory first. Let's start off with high school.
Everyone's going to get a chuckle when they listen to this. I was the Mardi Gras king, and I have to remind my family every once in a while when I walk out in the morning in my striking robes that I was the Mardi Gras king with Betsy Rice in 1989.
Nice. There you go.
And here's why. And here's the funny story of this. It was nominations from teachers and students. And for a kid from Amelia, Ohio, who had lost his parents early, it was cool for me, man.
That's
It was a
awesome.
big deal for me. It's carried me along the way. You had Will Hoyt get the principal's trophy because he was the phenomenal athlete, as he should be. But I got my little touch. I'll never be in the Hall of Fame, nor do I need to be,
Yeah.
because I was the Mardi Gras king. College winning the OVC.
Yeah.
Meeting my wife. I led my team in home runs during the Frontier League before the money got embezzled, and then graduating from vet school. And then my last 10 years of my life, I joined a practice down here that's full of a bunch of superheroes. It's like going to work at the Hall of Justice every day with Batman, Superman, Robin.
Yes.
Me
Nice.
playing the part of Aquaman. It's it's been a very good life. And if I have anything to say about it, you manifest your own destiny. As cheesy as that sound, man, I tell my kid, your attitude leads the way, always.
Yep. No,
So-
I 1,000% agree with you on that one. And it's been great. Keeping up with you before we have actually had this podcast, and you and I exchanged some videos and some books and all that stuff. But it's been really great to catch up with you. I know you're very busy with your doing your veterinarian work, and then also with your son, and then doing this on a Sunday with us. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. It's been great catching up with you.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to all the 85 through 95 student athletes, and just say what a joy and what a great presence it's been to be in everyone's lives and to be a part of that network. And you guys for putting this together. This is such a cool collaboration that you and Coach do. And I hope that this triggers some people to go into action and do this on another level. Because you guys have created a really cool network that can expand almost nationally. So thank you for asking me all the way from Weatherford, Texas, to be on this.
Right. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it, Scott, so much. And real quick, Steve, who do you got? Give me Super Bowl predictions. What do you guys got? Let's since today's a Super Bowl.
I'm going with San Fran.
All right, Scott, what do you got?
Christian McCaffrey. You got to go San Fran. Even though the conspiracy theory says, as my son last night sat me down and goes, look, I just want to put this to you. It's going to crush your soul. Taylor Swift will win the Super Bowl tomorrow. And I hope that you're there.
Oh, that's great. That's some great stuff.
It is so fun. But if I come back to Cincinnati, I'm finding you guys.
Okay.
And I'm taking you to the Rib House or El Coyote or the Skyline or one of those deals. When I came in here at Christmas, I stopped and ate a personal pizza at La Rosa's and then drove across the street and ate 2 Conies. And then I tried to find some Grater's ice cream. It was like a fat man depression.
That's it. Love it.
I got nothing but love for you guys. Call me, text me.
Appreciate it.
Keep me in the loop.
It,
and
Scott.
Thank you for bringing back great memories of Cincinnati, Ohio, McNicholas, Turpin, Anderson, and the community.
We appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and Scott Strosnider, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you guys next week.